We consider COEs to be capacity multipliers. And we consider their strength laying, because COEs are technically small entities. What is important is their communities of interest, or the circles of experts that they build around, in their expertise.
Hello and welcome to the Transformation Brief. I'm your host, Jackie Faye Burton. Today we're talking about one of NATO's best kept secrets, the Centers of Excellence. Now, they're not operational headquarters, they're not part of NATO's command structure, yet they help shape everything from doctrine and training to cyber defense, military medicine, strategic communications, space, energy security, and dozens of other specialized areas that strengthen the alliance every day. To break it all down, we are joined by Rasa Pazarauskiene, the NATO Officer for COE Establishment and Accreditation. Rasa, welcome.
Thank you, JF. It's good to be here.
Okay, and so before we dive into the topic at hand, I want to talk about you. You are from Lithuania.
Correct.
You were born while it was still under Soviet control, but you have a really interesting story. You were telling me even as a child, you were part of the resistance.
Yes, JF, I think we all were. And you know that probably that Lithuania was the first country to break out from the Soviet Union in 1990. And the resistance was actually a part of our DNA, even though we were not maybe showing it directly, but we were there. So when I was young, my dad told me the story because my dad was a conductor of the not the military band then, but he then became the military band conductor when Lithuania became independent. However, he was working with cultural events all the time. And in Lithuania, we have a song which is very similar to America.
We have a clip. Can we
yeah,
play it?
Sure, absolutely.
Can we play that real fast?
Definitely.
And so this is the song.
That's the song, yes, definitely. So it is a similar song to Your America the Beautiful, which is kind of a second anthem, right? So you see, I'm tearing up now.
Oh, it's okay.
So that song was played and everybody would stand up when the song was aired or performed live. But the thing was that in Soviet Union, all the cultural programs, whenever you were performing, they had to be approved by the Communist Party. And this song was actually sort of labeled as the song about the beauty of the nature of Lithuania. And nobody has ever translated the lyrics, although this our poet Maironis, which was a priest, and that is, I think he wrote it like in 19th century, and it's absolutely beautiful song. However, it was a part of the resistance because it was sold to the Communist Party as if it was praising the nature of the country, but in true essence, it spoke about the deep history.
So you're a child dancing to this song. You're telling the
Yes.
Soviets that this is about nature,
Yes.
but in fact,
Yes.
it was really about independence.
Correct.
And a strong Lithuania.
Yes.
And everyone, I mean, even
Correct.
I was when I was looking up the song after you told me about it the other day, I played it for another Lithuanian that I work with in my office, and she immediately was like, "Oh yeah, everyone knows the song,
Yeah.
and everyone loves it." I didn't mean to make you cry,
No,
but
that's okay.
but it's such a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for
And
sharing.
it's the power of Stratcom as well.
Yes, exactly. I love it so much. But getting to today's topic, the Centers of Excellence.
Yes.
Can you just give me a definition? What is a Center of Excellence?
Well, absolutely. So the Centers of Excellence are organizations like a cohorts of like-minded nations that are established either nationally or multinationally, we have both, in order to develop subject matter expertise in the very specific area. Just like you mentioned in your introduction, some work on cybersecurity, some work on energy security, some on strategic communications, some on medics. So these are basically the entities that are established to support NATO Command Structure with knowledge and expertise that we may not possess inside of the house.
Okay, and this idea dates back to 2002 after
Yes.
the Prague summit, but now there are 30
Correct.
NATO-accredited Centers of Excellence. But how does NATO decide when to open up a new Center of Excellence?
Well, you actually pointed out a very important point. NATO accredits those entities and agrees to work with them. However, this is not the NATO who actually establishes them. It is always the ally always, and I must stress it, always the nation, the allied nation who decides to offer the Center of Excellence to NATO. Now, where does the idea come from? One cradle of ideas is actually, we call it a wish list in our working language, but basically it is a list of future areas for COE development, which our headquarters, in coordination with other NATO entities, develops and submits to the Military Committee and the North Atlantic Council for approval. So when the nation wants to establish a COE, we always tell them to go and look into this list. And the reason is exactly what you mentioned, JF. We already have 30 COEs, so we don't want, or NATO would not approve the COE. That makes no sense to them. To which we say to the nations, if you want to establish a COE, go look at the wish list. If there is an idea that you really like, pick it up and develop it either as a separate initiative or expand the existing COE concept. Both ways are possible. Now, if there is no idea in the list that nation want to offer, but it's still a wonderful idea, because we're all humans, right? We might actually miss some good aspect. We're okay to look, or NATO is okay to look into that nation's proposal and decide regarding the added value of this organization to NATO. But again, it is not the NATO, it is the nation who is offering the COE to the alliance.
And then when it comes to money, these aren't funded always by common funds. These are funded by the nations or multiple nations that have decided. Why is that important, where the money's coming from, or that? How does that model work?
Yeah, that is correct. So COEs are not receiving any common funding unless there is a specific project to which NATO sort of employs them to do, but no common funding for their daily operations. That's very important. Now, the good thing is that this is the voluntary national contributions paid by the nations, but deliver the value to the NATO at such a cheap cost, that it's very difficult to resist, right? And it has been working, for 25 years, 26 years now.
Yeah.
So yes, so the nations are paying for the operations of the COE, and sometimes it's a project-based collaboration, case by case, between NATO and the Centers of Excellence, talking about the money.
Okay, and then the centers, they don't just work with militaries, they work with academia, they work with industry, they work with research institutions. But coming back to Allied Command Transformation, how do we play a role here?
Actually, we play a great role in COE life, and it depends on the COE. Sometimes it's ACT, sometimes it's ATO more, but yes, we are the coordinating authority on behalf of NATO for the COEs. We consider COEs to be capacity multipliers. And we consider their strength laying, because COEs are technically small entities. What is important is their communities of interest, or the circles of experts that they build around, in their expertise. We, as ACT, are represented in the steering committees of the COE, which is the governance bodies. So we have ability to consult and advise them regarding, their items in their program of work, as well as through the functional relationship developed through some of the documents, we're able to tap into that external expertise that, again, might not be available to us at the hand's reach. Or we can go to COEs and develop a very fruitful collaboration with them.
Okay, so let's bring this to life a little bit. Can you give me some examples of some recent work that a Center of Excellence has done that has really made a real difference for the Alliance?
Yes, absolutely. So I probably would stay with 3 examples that are similar but slightly different from each other. So first, I would like to mention the Cold Water Operations COE, which, by the way, is one of the nationally established COEs. Norway is the sponsoring nation, or the framework nation for that, but now they are becoming multinational. They are looking a lot into innovation sector or innovation technology application for the warfighter in the cold water environment. They have just launched the project, which is called Heimdall, God of War, in the region of Tailsang, if I'm not mistaken. And that project is about bringing together the military experts, researchers, and industry to exploit the emerging technologies in the cold weather environment, which is very important.
Exactly, because I was actually watching some video from this past year's Heimdall exercise, and I noticed it looks freezing, and sometimes equipment can break down in these conditions. So if we don't test it to make sure that it works and that it's inoperable beneficial between other nations,
Yes.
we won't know whether it works there. But what were some of the other examples?
Yeah, the other example is the military medicine COE. They are the front runners also about different patterns, technologies, and tools to develop to help the military medicine experts on the field. So one of their deliverables at the moment that has been tested in the exercises is called, and I'm looking at my notes because it's a complicated term, near real-time surveillance tool. So that tool apparently is built to pull the data from different deployment environments to one database and to be able in short term to detect different diseases, but as well as the bioattacks. Wow. It has been used now in the field extensively.
Wow, quite impressive.
Yeah.
And then the final example.
The final example, I would like to talk a little bit about our oldest COE, which is the Joint Air Power Competence Center in Kalkar, Germany. That COE may not have been, so when the COE is mature, the most important thing is for them to adjust the implementation of their concept. And that COE is doing that very successfully. So they are picking the lessons identified and different experiences from the warfighter and brings them to doctrine, concepts, lessons learned, training programs, and so on and so forth. That COE is special because it's the first COE, as well as they have a direct relationship with AirCom, the commander of Air Command of NATO, is also the director of that COE. So that COE is very intimately linked with the operational side of the house.
Okay, so great insights. You've come a long way as a little girl from Lithuania, but yeah, it was great. That story in the beginning was really touching. Thanks again. All right, so the NATO Centers of Excellence demonstrate that transformation isn't just about developing new technology, it's about bringing together knowledge, experience, and expertise from across the alliance. And as Rasa said, they are what we like to call capacity multipliers. By connecting national strengths with NATO's collective needs, the centers help allies learn faster, strengthen interoperability, develop doctrine, test new ideas, and prepare for the security challenges of tomorrow. That's all for this episode of the Transformation Brief. Thanks for listening.